All right, we're going to do a couple practice problems here on the back. So the first one is basically the example that there was on the front, but now we've got a question involved as well. So Dan still owes the bank $20,000 with 2% interest. It's being compounded semi-annually, and we know that that word there is going to mean twice per year. How much does he owe the bank in 2 years? We're going to set this up just like we have all our exponential growth problems. We know that the amount of money that he owes is growing. We don't know how much there will be in 2 years, but we do know that right now the amount is $20,000, or that was the initial amount. That was the principal or the principal amount. The money is growing, so it's growth. But remember, we're spreading that 2% across the year into 2 different groups. So we're just going to divide our interest rate by 2. Now the next part of this that's kind of tricky and you have to make sure you pay attention to is 2 years. How much does he owe the bank in 2 years? Well, this, remember, is going to level out to 1% per 6 months, right, in half a year. So if we're going to calculate that in the first 6 months, so from January to June, there's 1% we're going to calculate. Then we're going to do it again from July to December, but that's just 1 year. We're going to do that again in the second year. So altogether, our time is going to be 4. That 4 comes from being calculated 2 times in 2 years. And it might be better to think about it as 2 times per year. That's why that's a 4. And at that point, just throw the thing into your calculator or wolframalpha.com and you will get $20,812.08. Make sure you don't forget your units. All right, so the 2 things that you really have to pay attention to here are make sure that you're dividing your interest rate according to how often it's being compounded, and then really think about what your time is, because depending on how far you've spread this interest rate, the time that's given needs to be multiplied by that amount. Let's do some practice. Similar question. Brian has invested $1,000 in an account. It pays 3.5% monthly. How much money does he have in the account in 3 years? We don't know how much he'll have yet in 3 years, but we do know that the initial investment was $1,000. That account is growing. So we're going to take this 3.5% and divide it by how often we are compounding this. And this should say compounded monthly. That's a mistake in the worksheet, guys. Remember, that's the big key word there that's telling you how often we're spreading this payment across. So 0.035, if we're compounding it monthly, there are 12 months in a year. So we're going to divide this by 12. And in 3 years, that's 36 periods that we've compounded this interest. Throw that into your calculator, and you will get $1,110.54. Again, we're talking about money, so you got to make sure that you round to the nearest hundredths place. All right, so another example. You guys should be able to do these next 2. I will do them, but I think what you should do probably is pause the video now, do them on your own, and then check the solution. So that's my recommendation. In this situation, Alex loaned $326 to Tian at a 4% interest rate, which is compounded quarterly. Quarterly, we discussed, means it's going to happen 4 times in a year. So when we set this up, we don't know the total amount yet. But we do know that there are $326 that have been loaned to Tian. So Tian's amount that she owes is going to be increasing. So it's exponential growth. 4% is 0.04, and we are compounding this quarterly, so we have to divide it by 4 because we're spreading this across each year into 4 groups. After 1 year, we've compounded the interest 4 times. So we raise it to the 4th power, and now it's set up properly. Your answer should be $339.24. For you guys to calculate these, if you don't have a graphing calculator at home or you don't have a calculator that you feel comfortable plugging this equation into, punch it into wolframalpha.com. Just punch it into the search bar on Wolfram Alpha, and it will calculate it for you. All right, last one. Michael took out an $80 loan from the bank in 2013 at a 7% interest rate, which is compounded annually. So that's just once per year. How much will he owe the bank in 2020? So the first thing that we're going to have to figure out is between 2013 and 2020, how many years is that? Because we're going to have to know the time, right? So 7 years have passed at that amount of time. So we don't know the total amount. We're going to find that out. He starts off with an $80 loan. That's going to be compounded once annually. So this 7%, we have to divide it by 1, which is not going to change anything. Remember, this is basically the type of question we're used to seeing. If you're compounding something annually, it's just happening once per year. So you're really not spreading it around at all over the course of that year. And we're going to raise it to the 7 years once per year. 7 times 1 is 7. And when you punch that into the old calculator, you'll get 128.46, so $128.46. All right? So that is the end of the notes. Remember, your homework is just to do them. Tomorrow we'll practice it with a do now question, and we'll be moving on. So if you have any big questions, make sure to ask them. All right? See you tomorrow, guys.